Gilles de Rais, the knight who descended into darkness. In the Middle Ages, when night fell over France, silence did not mean peace. It meant fear. Fear of what lurked beyond the city walls, fear of what moved through forests and roads, and fear of those who wore shining armor by day while hiding unspeakable secrets by night. This is the story of a man celebrated as a hero, honored as a noble, and remembered by many as one of the most horrifying figures in human history. A knight, a marshal, a companion of Joan of Arc, and, according to the records of his time, a killer of children. His name was Gilles de Rais. Gilles was born around the year 1405 in a France torn apart by the 100 Years' War. Death was everywhere. War, famine, and disease shaped everyday life. Yet Gilles entered the world surrounded by privilege. He was born into one of the wealthiest and most powerful families of the region, heir to vast lands, castles, and titles. From an early age, he received an education that even many nobles never had. He could read and write fluently, spoke Latin, and showed a strong interest in literature, religion, and the arts. Everything about his early life suggested greatness. Tragedy arrived early. Gilles lost both of his parents while still a child. Orphaned, he was raised by his maternal grandfather, Jean de Craon, a man known for his ambition and ruthless political instincts. Jean shaped Gilles not as a child, but as an asset. Through arranged marriages and calculated alliances, he expanded the family's influence and wealth. By his teenage years, Gilles was already married and fully immersed in the brutal world of medieval nobility, where power was everything and mercy was a weakness. When war intensified between France and England, Gilles found purpose on the battlefield. Violence, discipline, and loyalty were not only accepted there, they were praised. He distinguished himself as a fearless knight, fighting with intensity and devotion to the French crown. His name gained recognition, but it was his association with Joan of Arc that sealed his reputation. To the people of France, Joan was a divine figure, chosen by God. To march beside her was to stand close to holiness itself. Gilles fought in key battles and demonstrated exceptional courage. In 1429, his loyalty and service were rewarded. He was named Marshal of France, one of the highest military titles in the kingdom. He was young, powerful, immensely rich, and admired. To the world, Gilles de Rais had achieved everything a man of his time could hope for. But history often hides its darkest turns behind moments of triumph. After the war, something changed. Gilles gradually withdrew from military life and from the royal court. He appeared less frequently in political circles. Rumors followed him. He spent enormous sums of money on lavish theatrical productions, extravagant feasts, and religious constructions. He commissioned grand plays with hundreds of actors and costumes, attempting to recreate sacred victories on stage. To finance this obsession, he began selling off ancestral lands and castles that had belonged to his family for generations. To many nobles, Gilles now seemed unstable, reckless, and dangerous to his own lineage. His family feared he would destroy their legacy entirely. Eventually, the king intervened, legally restricting Gilles from selling any more of his property. Stripped of financial freedom and increasingly isolated, Gilles retreated to his remaining castles. It was behind those thick stone walls that the whispers began. Children started to disappear. Young boys from nearby villages, poor children, sons of peasants and apprentices. They were last seen following well-dressed men, tempted by promises of food, work, or a better life. In an era where death was common, disappearances were often ignored. But soon, The pattern became impossible to deny. The children vanished without a trace. No bodies were found. No answers were given. According to later testimonies, the children were taken to Gilles' castles. Inside, away from the eyes of the world, a nightmare unfolded. They were dressed in fine clothes, fed generously, treated with deceptive kindness. Then, they were led into private chambers. What followed, even by medieval standards, was unspeakable. Torture, mutilation, slow death. Their bodies were burned, reduced to ashes, and scattered so that nothing would remain. Some witnesses claimed Gilles took pleasure in the suffering. Others described something even darker. Rituals, occult practices, attempts to summon demons. It was said that Gilles believed he could gain power, knowledge, or wealth through forbidden means. A priest allegedly assisted him, reciting incantations and prayers meant to call entities from beyond. One of the castles associated with these events still stands today, visited by tourists who walk its halls unaware of what history claims occurred there. For years, nothing happened. Gilles was untouchable. A marshal of France, a war hero, a man who had fought beside a saint. No one dared to accuse him openly, but in the Middle Ages, power was fragile, and politics could turn deadly overnight. In 1440, Gilles became involved in a dispute over land and taxes with local authorities. In an act of arrogance, he kidnapped a priest and officials connected to the Duke of Brittany. This single mistake changed everything. It gave his enemies the excuse they needed. An investigation was launched not into the missing children, but into his political defiance. What followed shocked the region. Witnesses came forward, servants spoke, parents told stories of vanished sons, different voices, different places, all pointing to the same man. In September of 1440, Gilles de Rais was arrested. He was charged with heresy, murder, sodomy, and demon worship. During the trial, he was threatened with torture and excommunication, a punishment worse than death for a deeply religious man. Gilles confessed. He admitted to the crimes. He described the acts. He wept and begged for forgiveness. But here, history fractures. Some historians believe Gilles de Rais was exactly what the records describe, a serial killer who used his power and status to commit unimaginable crimes. Others argue that he was a victim of political conspiracy. No bodies were ever presented. Confessions were extracted under extreme pressure. And after his execution, his lands were quickly divided among his accusers. On the 26th of October, 1440, Gilles de Rais was executed. He was hanged, then burned. Yet, in a strange contradiction, his body was buried in consecrated ground, an honor rarely granted to someone condemned for such crimes. To some, this proves his innocence. To others, it was simply one final privilege of nobility. His legacy did not die with him. His story is believed to have inspired the legend of Bluebeard, the nobleman who murdered behind castle walls. To this day, Gilles de Rais remains a figure wrapped in shadow hero, monster, or scapegoat of a brutal age. In the Middle Ages, truth rarely survived untouched. It was shaped by fear, power, and silence. And some stories still whisper from the stone walls, waiting for someone willing to listen.